currently considering dropping letters off our name just to fit in. You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio.
Wow.
Keith.
I doubt there's many people that know what you were going with that.
Oh, come on. Everyone's got to know the story about Dante Hittner.
I'd be surprised.
What if we started just dropping random letters off names? Let's make it a game. This decision...
Honestly, I like Dante Hittner better than Ocho Cinco, though.
Yeah, I'll give him that much, but it's not saying much.
That's true.
Keith Grieve and Steve Taylor here from 87 Sports Fans, here to take you around the world of sports. You will want to make sure you are around for our NFL hour. Honestly, I have to say, and I know I'm biased, but I think it's the best hour in internet radio. We'll be joined by Jim Saranteas, the Fantasy Greek, and we unfortunately had a late cancellation. Monty, the sportologist, will not be joining us to talk NBA, so we'll be on our own for a little bit for that segment.
I like NBA.
Yes, and I just picked up NBA 2K14 the other day.
How is it?
Oh, fantastic as normal.
Phenomenal. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, I've already started creating the Rochester Royals and moving the Kings back to Rochester.
Did you see the Facebook message I posted of the interview with Michael Jordan?
That was absolutely fantastic.
Wasn't that great? It makes me have more respect over him about what he had to say about trash talking, and I wish I could have been a fly on the wall when he talked to O.J. Mayo the way he did.
Oh, my God. That story about O.J. Mayo. Folks, if you have no idea what we're talking about, find it on YouTube. It's from 2K Sports, and it's Michael Jordan kind of unplugged, and he goes off, and he tells this story about how at one of his summer camps, O.J. Mayo, who was coming out of high school at the time, started talking junk to Michael Jordan about how Michael could not defend him. And needless to say, Michael taught him a lesson. Yeah. To say the least. But
what was it? How did he put it? He said he sent all the campers home and then got a hold of Mayo and said, "You might be the best player in high school, but I'm the best player in the world." Yeah. And then schooled him. That I wish I could have seen. And even he said, he goes, "If you could have seen that tape of me just taking him to school, I wish I could have seen that."
And then he also shows his age when they ask him about twerking, and he goes, "Nope, I don't twerk, I don't Facebook, I don't Twitter." And there it is. Okay, so we are in the midst of the Major League Baseball playoffs. Tonight, happening as we speak, the Tampa Bay Rays with a 3-0 lead over the Cleveland Indians in the American League wild card. Last night, however, we had the Pittsburgh Pirates taking the wild card game from the Cincinnati Reds. They will move on to the NLDS. Steve-O, what's your takeaway from the Pirates?
It was expected. I mean, I think it's the best thing that could have happened for baseball right now, because as much as people would have liked to have seen the Reds, and I know, like I said before, we have some friends, especially wives of friends, who would love to have seen the Reds make it to the World Series. I think Pittsburgh, the farther they go, the better it's going to be for baseball. So to me, you can't really read too much into these one-and-done playoff games, because there are some teams that can play amazing on any given night, but if you put them in a lengthy series, they end up just collapsing. So to me, I'm happy to see it, but once again, I'm not going to read too much into it, because they do have to go play a very talented, very difficult St. Louis team now. So it's not going to be easy for them, that's for sure.
Francisco Liriano was absolutely lights out on his game last night. Mm-hmm. I was a little worried about midway. He seemed to start to overthrow a little bit, but the proof is in the pudding there. And
there was a debate on talk radio today about these one-and-done games, because, like I said, they are on their way to play St. Louis. So during these one-and-done games, should you start your best pitcher, or start like your second or third best, knowing that if you advance, you have to play against a team that is much better than the one that you're playing in that one-and-done game.
I think you have no choice. You have to start your best player because tomorrow is not promised to anybody. It's the equivalent of if it's a game 7 and your ace started game 5 and it's only 2 or 3 days afterwards or whatever, maybe 4 days, you're not going to sit him just because he hasn't had enough rest.
Yeah.
And we've seen...
It was an interesting debate, though, especially the fact that the Pirates were at home, where, your second or third pitcher, probably plays better at home than they do on the road. So I don't know. It was to me. I agree with you. I would start my ace, but it was an interesting. Like it made me think for a little bit because it is an interesting situation to where, like you said, Liriano was unbelievable yesterday, and now you have to go to St. Louis, and any team starting in the hole down at least even one game in any one of these series, it could be a big deal. So it was interesting. I don't know. It just made me think. I thought it was a really good debate.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, and I thought about this last night, is do you think that postseason matchups are diminished when division rivals meet early on in the playoffs?
Are you talking about like the Dodgers and the Braves?
No, because they're not divisional rivals. I'm talking about like the Pittsburgh, like the Pirates and the Reds last night. They've been battling each other all year. The Pirates just got done. They swept the closing series from the Reds, and then they roll in and they play them again, and now it's the playoffs, and now they're going and they play the Cardinals. I mean, maybe there's no way to. My point is, there's no way to do anything about it. It's not a problem that can be fixed. But, God, I would love to see the Pirates and Cardinals in the NLCS. You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying. Honestly, for me, though, I was thinking about this one-and-done playoff, the wild card rounds. I would almost prefer a best of 3, like a small series, not a best of 5, even just a best of 3. So if you do have a team that, like you said, the Reds, same as the Pirates, same as the wild cards in the American League, they were fighting down to the end just to make sure they can lock up those positions. And then you play one game on the road and you lose and you're done. I mean, that to me is just heartbreaking. After all that hard work you put in, that it comes down to that one game. So to me, I mean, it's different than football to me, where baseball, I think a series, like if you put Denver right now in the NFL against another team in a one and done or in a series, Denver's probably going to win. But you look at something like the Pirates and the Reds, I think a 3-game series would be easily, it would go to the full 3 games, and it would be fun to watch. I don't know. I was a little turned off by this whole one and done thing.
Instead of like the one and done, and then the NLDS being a best of 5, you could have them both be a best of 3.
Yeah,
and not add any time. You know what I mean? Because the problem with baseball playoffs is that the more teams that you add, the more rounds that you add, the more and more you're pushing it into November.
Yeah.
And then you get into just some cold nights, and back when the Colorado Rockies were in the World Series, I think if I'm not mistaken, there was a game that was snowed out. So
yeah.
I've had my solution. I've made public my solution, months ago. That the way to get around it is from Memorial Day to Labor Day, Sunday doubleheaders.
Mm.
You can take 10 days off the schedule right there. Bam. Problem solved.
Yeah. No, I agree. Because, even look at right now what's going on with the Rays and the Indians. I mean, Cleveland, now mind you, Cleveland is losing at home, which to me is a little different than what happened with Cincinnati. But once again, this is a series that I would like to see more of. I would hate to see it end, and it's going to. It's going to end tonight, one of these two teams, and it looks like potentially it's going to be the Rays are going to move on. And it's like we didn't even get a chance to see the Indians play in the playoffs. I would like to have seen them play a little more. I would like to have seen the Reds play a little more, not even from a fan perspective of that team, but a fan of the game. And I don't know. I think it's kind of cheap.
Well, I cannot disagree with you. I just think that the way it is now, you can't add a 3-game and a 5-game series. But if they were to change the NLDS to a best of 3,
yeah, I agree with you. I think 2 rounds, best of 3 would be perfect.
Then, as they say in the old country, you're onto something, my friend.
Is that what they say in the old country?
That's not what they say in the old country, but it sounded good.
Do they all sound like Dracula in the old country?
No, that's my my tried and true generic European accent. It could come from anywhere. The person that I'm imitating when I talk like that could be anywhere from Spain to the Ukraine. It doesn't. The kind of one size fits all there. Sorry, I am not. My repertoire isn't as diverse as I would like.
It did sound a lot, though. When I said the only reason I said Dracula is it sounded a lot like Martin Landau in Ed Wood when he was playing Bela Lugosi. Sounded very much like that.
The board game Seen It, Martin Landau actually won a game for me because nobody I was playing with had any idea who he was.
Really?
I was getting way off topic. It was the game-winning question, and they showed a picture of Martin Landau, and I said that's Martin Landau, and the people that I'm with, one of the guys that I was playing with goes, that is not the same guy from Grumpy Old Men. I'm like, you're right, because that was Walter Matthau. But anyway.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So back on topic. The NLDS begins tomorrow night. Pittsburgh traveling to the St. Louis Cardinals. A.J. Burnett versus Adam Wainwright. It's not lost on me that you could have 2 former Yankees playing a pivotal role in the Pirates' postseason run. Russell Martin last night, A.J. Burnett possibly tomorrow night. But Adam Wainwright, 19-9 on the year with a 2.94 ERA. It is a tall order to be walking into St. Louis. And you have to at least take one of those first 2 games. In a best of 5, you cannot fall 0-2.
I don't know. St. Louis is a beast. Like I hope the Pirates can find a way, but St. Louis is just. I mean, it's tough to look at the 4 National League teams that are left and think that the World Series champion is not going to come from one of those 4 teams.
Right.
I mean, I have all the respect in the world for the American League, but I mean, between the Braves, the Dodgers, the Cardinals, and the Pirates, I don't see anyone from the American League even touching them, which is unbelievable.
I agree. In the other NLDS, the Dodgers travel to the Atlanta Braves. Clayton Kershaw, 16-9 with a 1.83 ERA on the year versus Chris Medlin, 15-12, 3.11. I don't think people really give the due diligence or the respect to finish an entire season with less than 2 ERA. Yeah. It's phenomenal. It's just amazing, really.
Yeah. I think this is really going to be the best series. I think this series could be better than what the World Series ends up being. Because, I mean, the Dodgers are probably the hottest team in baseball right now, and then Atlanta has just been a tank all season. And just those 2 teams coming together, I think it's just going to be amazing. It's going to be great baseball. For those who don't like to watch baseball because they think it's boring, I think you need to watch this series because it's going to be incredible. It is going to go to 5 games. I have no doubt in that mind. I
would love to see the Pirates and Braves in the NLCS just because we'll be able to relive all the 90s highlights of these 2 teams that repeatedly went to the championship series but never won a damn thing except for, well, the Braves are. My favorite phrase is that the Braves are a Dave Justice home run away from being the Buffalo Bills of baseball.
Yep.
Anyway, over in the American League, the one series that we have set in stone, the Detroit Tigers travel to, that's right, they're traveling to the Oakland Athletics. The Oakland A's have home field advantage in this series, which just blows my mind. Max Scherzer, who would be my pick to be the AL Cy Young, 21-3 with a 2.9 ERA, 240 Ks in the Cyberball American League, DH riddled American League.
Well, look at the 90-year-old Bartolo Colon that he's pitching against.
I know, 18-6.
2.65.
Yep,
He's 40.
He's taken something they haven't found a test for yet.
40.
So, and then the winner of tonight. Sorry, go ahead.
No, he's 40 and fat. That's all I was saying.
Oh, 40 and fat. I thought you said in fact. Sorry, I thought you were going on.
In fact, he's fat.
And the winner of tonight's game, which right now stands 3-0 Rays as they go to the bottom of the sixth. The Indians trailing. A nice story the Indians are with a new manager this year who couldn't find the ballpark on opening day. Somehow finds his way into the playoffs. But it looks like, at least at this point, Tampa will be playing the Boston Red Sox, a battle of AL East foes, which, not for nothing, that'll be a pretty fantastic series.
Yeah. But I, just because of the history, I can see pretty much Major League Baseball hoping and praying that the Indians make it so they can go to Boston and play Boston. Because, with Terry Francona, I mean, it's the ultimate storyline for a first-round playoffs, where you have the former coach that took them to prominence and finally broke the streak coming back to his old team in the postseason. I mean, that alone is going to sell tickets and help the ratings. So
the only way that storyline could have been better is if somehow they were able to be in this position playoff-wise with Bobby Valentine still at the helm.
Oh, Jesus.
Just only because it was the guy that took over for him.
Yeah.
And Francona. You know what I mean? That's the only way it could be better. But Francona going into Boston, there'd be some awkward moments with when the fans start cheering for Tito.
Especially because you look at it, you have Francona coming into Boston, and you have two former Yankees that used to be a thorn in the side of Boston with Nick Swisher and Giambi. And just to see them come in and at Boston, like one of them hitting a game-winning home run or whatnot, that would just be a great story.
Oh, yeah. No, there's a lot of plot lines there.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Red Sox, 97-65. 97 wins this year.
They're just a balanced squad.
Well, they
really are.
You look at their pitching stats and across the board. I'm sorry, their hitting stats, rather. Second in at-bats, total at-bats. First in runs, second in hits, fifth in home runs. First in OPS, knocking the snot out of the ball. And pitching, they were sixth in ERA, fourth in complete games. Good enough where it counts, I guess.
A big storyline would have to be the resurgence of David Ortiz. I mean, the Red Sox were one of the best teams in baseball, and he's leading all of the offensive stats except for hits, which Dustin Pedroia, another former MVP, is leading. It's like they're having it's like when the Celtics got all the old guys with Pierce and Garnett and Ray Allen, and they kind of had that little resurgence in their careers enough to win a title. Here you have Ortiz, who was pretty much non-existent last year, coming back with a vengeance and becoming that player again, even at his age.
Hit 309 for the year, which is actually down from last year, but he only played in 90 games last year.
Yeah.
But 309, honestly, is exactly the same batting average as he had in 2011. Mm-hmm. His on-base percentage, 3/1000ths of a percentage point lower than 2 years ago. Slugging percentage, 10 points higher, 564 to 554. And his OPS was 959 this year, 953 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So it's good to see a player like that who has been just absolutely ridiculed by. There's always the hint that he's on something. You know what I mean? Because he started out so slow in his career with Minnesota, and then all of a sudden, magically, hits 47 and then 54 in 2006. Starting in 2003 with Boston, he hits 31, then 41, then 47 in 2005, then 54 in 2006, and then all of a sudden 35, 23, 28, 32, 20, so again.
I mean, the evidence is there. I mean, I know in a lot of his supporters say, well, he's just naturally a really big guy, and big guys have more power. Yeah, but what you just said, I mean, you don't have that kind of roller coaster ride unless you kind of stop doing what you shouldn't be doing. I don't want to throw the words out there. I don't want to be one of those conspiracy theorists, but
you are. But
I know. I watched a lot of X-Files growing up, so what do you want?
All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll go through the NBA, the Southeast Division, and we will give our opinion on Michael Jordan's comments that he could take LeBron James one-on-one. You're listening to 87 Sports Fans Radio, the show, 87 Live. Be right back, folks.
Crowd of emotions stumbling all around my heart. It must mean that you're near me, 'cause I can breathe you like you start. I'd give you everything, I'd take you anywhere you'd ever want to go. Just tell me what it takes to make you mine. Time I've been waiting my life to feel, baby, you love this you. But while my past keeps on fading, say that you're here to stay, baby, don't have to take this love from me. I feel this flood all around me, I'm drifting through a whole new life, where all I want is to have you, and you're my reason why. I'd give you everything, I'd take you anywhere you'd ever want to go. Just tell me what it takes to make you mine. Waiting my life to feel, baby, you love is real. Though all my past keeps on fading, say that you're here to stay, baby, don't ever take this love from me. All this time I've been waiting my life to feel, baby, you love is real. Though all my past keeps on fading, say that you're here to stay, baby, don't ever take this love from me. I feel this crowd of emotions stumbling all around my heart. It must mean that you're near me, 'cause I can breathe you like you start. 'Cause all this time I've been waiting my life to feel, baby, you love is real. But while my past keeps on fading, say that you're here to stay, baby, don't have to take this love from me. All this time I've been waiting my life to feel, baby, you love is real. But while my past keeps on fading, say that you're here to stay, baby, don't ever take this love from me. Baby, don't ever take love from me.
You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. This time I remembered to unmute the mics coming out of the break. You like that, Steve?
Nice.
You like
so
that?
People will actually hear us.
The phone number, if you want to join the discussion, and I imagine on this next topic there might be a few of you with an opinion, if you're listening, is 585-633-7487. Once again, 585-633-7487. Email us at youguysuck@87sportsfans.com. And also hit us up on Twitter at 87sportsfans and Facebook.com/87sportsfans. But first I want to talk to you about CG Imaging. And what do they do? Well, they take your ideas and they bring them to life with realistic 3D animation and graphics. Say you're trying to, pitch an idea to your boss, and your words and your drawings or whatever you can come up with isn't really doing the trick. 87 Sports Fans. CG Imaging can make it look realistic, like it's actually happening. Maybe you're trying to sell a product to a customer and you want to show them what your product looks like in your customer's space. CG Imaging can make that happen. Or maybe you're starting a business and you need a logo. Well, they designed our logo and they designed the header for our website, so go to their website, cg-imaging.com. CG Imaging, virtually creating reality. So, let's just say that Mr. Jordan, Michael Jeffrey Jordan, considered by some, not everybody, to be the best basketball player to ever play the game, made a little comment that he believes he could take LeBron James one-on-one. For the record, and I tweeted this earlier today and to a couple different people, I completely disagree. LeBron James is, I don't like the way this sounds, but I'll just use it anyway. He's a physical specimen that Jordan never had to play against. And I understand that the league is different. And if you watch that video clip that Steve was talking about from 2K Sports with Michael Jordan Unplugged, he talks about how the league is different, that there's not as much punishment inside, and he's absolutely right. And so, the players today, their skills are able to be showcased a little bit more based on the way the games are called. But LeBron is just too strong. And I likened it to when the Rancor monster ate the Gamorrean guard in Return of the Jedi.
That's what you likened it to.
That's pretty much what I think. LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. The only way that Jordan would win is if Jordan had the ball first and it was winners outs and Jordan never missed a single shot. Because if LeBron got the ball, one-on-one, let's say playing by ones, win by two, up to 10 or 11, LeBron would just back Jordan down and just beat the snot out of him physically. I don't know, Steve, what's your opinion?
No, I agree with you. I've always been the biggest believer that Jordan isn't the best player ever. I think Magic Johnson is the greatest player ever. And somebody said it right today. I was talking about this at work with them, and they said, Michael Jordan wasn't the best player ever. He was the best athlete ever to play basketball because he was insanely talented as far as athleticism and whatnot, and he was a great scorer, but it wasn't until later in his career that he obtained all of the teammate skills, I like to call them, being able to pass the ball, play better defense. And to me, LeBron James, the thing that would give Jordan problems is LeBron James is just as talented as he is as far as his ability to score. And like you said, he's a massive human being. He is a large physical specimen who's just as quick as Jordan. That's the thing, is he's 3 inches taller, and I would have to say he's got to be at least 30 pounds heavier than what Jordan was in his heyday. And LeBron is just as fast as him. So to me, that alone would I'm glad Jordan's saying that, but him saying that is the same thing as, say, Oscar Robertson saying, hey, when Jordan was in his prime, I could beat him. It's like, no, you couldn't, because you had great skill, but you weren't nowhere near as fast as him. It's just the game, as it evolves, so do the skill levels and abilities, and I just don't see that happening. And the funny part about what you said about Jordan saying that it was a more physical game, which it was, but the reason the game is the way it is today was 99% his fault. Because before him, there was no such thing as the ticky-tack fouls or the, just swiping at the ball, not even hitting anything and them calling a foul. That all started with Jordan. The traveling, the carrying the ball, all that stuff started with Jordan. So any complaint he has about today's game, he needs to look in the mirror because he was the cause of it by the way he played and the way the NBA wanted to protect their number one asset, which was Michael Jordan. Especially after Bird and Magic were gone, he was the face. So to me, I found that funny when he said that because I was like, "You were the reason, fool."
Right, and it's so funny because he gets that condescending look in his eye. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
Look, Jordan won 6 championships. Okay, he won 3. He went away for 2 years. The Bulls couldn't get there, and then he comes back and they win 3 more. Okay, so it's not unfair to say he carried them and won those championships. You know what I mean? I understand about John Paxson's and Steve Kerr and Scottie Pippen and even Horace Grant. All of the players played a part, and Jordan couldn't win without them. But none of them were winning a championship without Michael Jordan. Either. So,
then I think you can turn that around too because he had probably the best role players in NBA history on his team. Mm-hmm. Guys that are not the number ones, but they are. Because you look at that Lakers series where they won the championship against LA, their first one. The person that made the big shots when they needed it was John Paxson, because the Lakers left them open because they were double teaming Jordan. But it was. Those guys made the shots. If he didn't have Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, Paxson, and then even say Kukoc and Wennington and all those guys, you put them alone on a team, as you could tell with Pippen when he went to Portland afterwards, they're not going to do anything. But all of those really solid role players on the same team with somebody with the skill level of Jordan, they were able to clean up a lot of his messes. Horace Grant was one of the leading rebounders in the league, mainly because Jordan missed a lot. I think a lot of people forget that. He had games where he would take 47 shots and only make like 10 of them. He missed a lot of shots because he took a lot of shots. And those guys were always there to clean up the mess and help him. And that's where I think it equals with LeBron James to where he was in Cleveland wanting to be the Jordan with the role players and he didn't have them, but now that he has them in Miami, look at what's happening. It's almost like Miami is the modern version of the 90s Bulls.
And I was in a Facebook discussion earlier today with the other part of Jordan's comments was that he could beat Kobe one-on-one as well, and Kobe steals his moves. And that
was funny, though. That was funny when he said that.
But honestly now, whoever would win, you want to say Michael Jordan would beat Kobe? Sure, okay. That would be one-on-one matchup that I would pay top dollar to watch. Not necessarily for the quality of the basketball, but neither one of those sons of guns would want to walk off that court.
Yeah.
If you're playing, let's talk about it now. If you're playing one-on-one, win by 2, by ones, that game would probably be like 25-23 before somebody finally won.
Oh, yeah. Because I honestly believe the person that, since Jordan, that is the closest to him is easily, I don't think there's any doubt, Kobe Bryant. The way they play, Kobe does have a lot of Jordan's moves, which, Jordan took moves from Dr. J, so it happens. But Jordan and Kobe, if you put them side by side in some of their games, you would think they're the same person. Kobe Bryant is so identical to Jordan in almost every way. That's why when people do the comparison with LeBron, it's like, LeBron is a freak. You can't even compare him with Jordan because he is, I think, on a different level just because of his size and the ability he has with that size. But Kobe, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that would be Kobe and Jordan in their prime one-on-one would be a hell of a game.
They would be so you would think that they were angry at each other, but there would be just that driven to win, that competitive. There would be that kind of tension,
Yeah. And both of them, too, and I give Jordan a lot of respect for this, both of them have said, because I've heard Kobe say it before, too, where they don't really talk trash. They might jaw with people they know, but they don't really talk trash. They just score on you, and that's their trash talking, which I respect that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, so without Monty here, there will be a certain amount of entertainment value missing. Granted,
True.
Well, not so much entertainment value, but intelligence, I guess.
I don't know what you're talking about, Pete.
So let's go through the Southeast Division as we creep closer and closer to the NBA opening night at the end of the month. And the Southeast Division is home to the defending two-time NBA champion Miami Heat, led by Chris Bosh. No, I'm just kidding. Led by LeBron James, obviously. The main players all return, except for... Oh, no, they really didn't lose anybody major. They did add one, Greg Oden, who is listed as the fourth-string center. And I did notice an interesting name, whether or not he plays a major part or not remains to be seen, but Jarvis Varnado, which just has a great name. If he should become a star in this league somehow, there will be so many great SportsCenter nicknames for him. I'm hoping success for him for no other reason.
Well, there'd be a lot of Iron Man references because that's the name of the computer Tony Stark owns.
Oh, Jarvis, yeah.
Jarvis.
Yep. All right, so this lineup, Dwayne Wade, who, not for nothing, down the stretch at the end of the year, Wade looked a little tired, a little injured, a little banged up, didn't overcome the Knicks, not with K-N-I-C-K-S, the Knicks as in Knicks and bruises. Can this team, with playing 2 straight championship series... obviously LeBron is young enough where the physicality doesn't bother him, but Wade showed a little tread on the tires. What's your take on the Miami Heat this year?
I'm honestly, I have more optimism for them to win the title this season than I did last season. It once again will have to be who do you believe, because both LeBron and Dwayne. Well, LeBron James said he has done nothing but improve in the offseason, and he is 100 times better than what he was last year or what he's been in his career. Now, him I believe, because I know LeBron would put in the effort and put in the work because he does want to go down. He is that arrogant that he does want to go down as the best player in history. So to me, I believe that. But then Dwayne Wade also said for the first time since that first championship, he feels 100% healthy. Which last year, like you said, he was banged up pretty bad. He still dealt with the knee issues. If they play him right, meaning rotate him and Ray Allen a little more, because I know Ray Allen is getting older still, but, get Ray Allen there, even get Norris Cole in the shooting guard position. But if they can keep a good rotation with Dwayne Wade and maybe keep him to 25 to 30 minutes a game, with the additions, and I am thinking Greg Oden, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because he was a very talented player and he's just been dealing with the Sam Bowie type of freak injuries. If he can actually play a solid 20 minutes a game, and you will have a floor of, even if halfway through the season he gets put into a starting role, and you can have a floor of Mario Chalmers, Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, Chris Bosh in the power forward, and then Greg Oden in the center. There's not many teams that can match up with that. Because, a lot of people, Chris Bosh had a horrible season last year, and he does need to create some kind of a buzz for him because his contract's coming up along with all the other guys. But Bosh is the reason they ended up winning that championship, Bosh and Ray Allen. And that's why I was kind of irritated with LeBron James after they won, and he kept saying, I, me, I. When it's like, you missed some shots in that clutch game that Ray Allen pulled you out of after Chris Bosh got the rebound. So to me, I was a little irritated with that. But if you look at this team, and I am happy they were able to keep Birdman because I think he was a huge part of last year's team, at least in the postseason. If they can rotate him in more during the regular season, I think it's only going to improve him. But to me, I think the Miami Heat has the best chance of winning once again. I think they're going to three-peat.
They did lose Mike Miller, but he wasn't really playing much.
He was shot. He made some clutch threes in a few games, but his knees are... I feel bad for the guy. He looked like one of those old guys we used to play with at the... Okay, I'm going to say that in a different way. He was like one of those old guys you used to play basketball with at the Y, who would come in with all the braces and they could barely move, but they could still make a shot or two. And that's what I think of when I see Miller.
Those were the only guys.
What's that?
Those were the only guys I could defend.
Yeah, exactly. I miss those days.
All right. Last year's second place team in the division, the Atlanta Hawks, a very different Atlanta Hawks with Josh Smith moving on to the Detroit Pistons. As we sit right now, you're looking at a depth chart of Jeff Teague, Lou Williams, who, if I'm not mistaken, is overcoming an injury. I could be wrong on that. Kyle Korver. Williams is hurt. Kyle Korver at the 3. Paul Millsap at the 4. And Al Horford at the 5. This team, we joke about Atlanta being that consummate 52-win team that exits in the first round of the playoffs every year. I don't think they'll make the playoffs this year.
See, I think they will still, just because I think the East is still going to be pretty weak, especially this division. I mean,
oh no, it's bad, but I don't think this team is the eighth best team in the East right now. I mean, I haven't really done my research, and compared yet, but looking at this lineup, where are the points coming from? You got
middle. I mean, you look at it; it's a team of mediocre players around Al Horford, he's a 6'10" power forward playing center, but I mean, he's definitely the most talented player on that team right now.
Last year,
but that's the thing, though, is every year we look at the depth chart at Atlanta, and even when they had Josh Smith, it was still, how are these guys winning? How are they getting to the playoffs? Mm-hmm. And I mean, it just boils down to they are in. Other than Miami, they are in a very weak division in a very weak conference, and you don't need to play you don't have to play great. I mean, a good example of that is the freaking Bucks last year making it in the 8th spot. I mean, the Bucks weren't even the 13th or 14th best team in the Western Conference, and they made it as the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. So to me, if Atlanta can just kind of play mediocre, I think they'll still find a way. If not make the playoffs, they'll be right on the cusp.
Atlanta won 44 games last year and made the playoffs by 10 games.
Yeah, they were 500 and they made the playoff. No, not even 500.
44 and 38. They were 537 was their winning percentage. Okay. Milwaukee won 38 games. So let's just say 36 games, because the next team below Milwaukee was Philadelphia at 34 wins. So let's just say 36 games is the threshold for the playoffs in the East. I see Atlanta losing 8 more games this year. Absolutely. Just losing that scoring. Toronto will be better. Philadelphia,
they're not
going to be better. I don't believe that. Detroit should be better. They won 29 games last year.
Cleveland should be better.
Cleveland will be better. Orlando may be better too. Who knows? But
yeah, see, that's the thing. Once again, though, like I said, I can't count Atlanta out just because. I mean, for the last 10 seasons, I've counted them out, and they find a way. They just find a way to be mediocre, to be that team that makes it to the playoffs and takes, like a Miami or a Boston or one of the elites, takes them to a 7-game first-round series. It's just weird. I don't know what it is about them. I mean, they have the worst fans in any sport, pretty much, are the Atlanta Hawks.
What was that year? They were like the 2 or the 3 seed, and they couldn't sell out a playoff game. I mean, that was just atrocious.
A home playoff game, they were selling half the tickets, which is ridiculous.
Yep.
Especially from a great franchise, because I don't think people remember. There was, they had the unfortunate luck of being good during a time when you had Bird with the Celtics and Jordan with the Bulls, but Dominique Wilkins with the Hawks were right there, but unfortunately they couldn't compete with those two teams. Or you could even say the Cavaliers with Elo and Price and Doherty and all of them. So, I mean, Atlanta's always been They have a lot of history, but their fans are just crap. I don't understand it.
The only thing that bodes well for them is that in the East, you do have teams like Charlotte,
and Orlando,
Philly.
who I still think is going to be
it's
the toilet bowl of the conference.
So then moving on, the Washington Wizards, who won 29 games last year. Looking at a depth chart as we speak right now of John Wall at the point, Bradley Beal out of Florida at the 2 guard. The rookie Otto Porter penciled in as the starter ahead of Trevor Ariza. Remains to be seen whether that's how they will start opening night. Nene at the 4. And Emeka Okafor starting at center. Again, this is another team where Otto Porter was a nice college story. I personally am skeptical about whether it will translate to success in the NBA, and if it does, it certainly won't be this year. I don't believe. You look down the depth chart. Al Harrington is now on this roster. Kevin Seraphin, the backup center. There's flashes of talent, but if this team wins 35 games, I'll be impressed.
Yeah, but like you said, there's flashes of talent. I mean, it's a good young roster. It's just how are they going to play together? Because you look deep down on the shooting guard depth charts, and you have newly drafted Glenn Rice Jr.
Right. I forgot about him.
Who was very solid at Georgia Tech. I mean, I don't know if you can even put him in the conversation with his father, but he's somebody that I want to keep an eye on. Like I can see. I mean, it's tough to say if he's even going to have any, how much playing time he's going to have this season. But they have some players on their team that, if they had a coach that could get them to play together, then I think they might be able to make a move. I'm not saying playoffs, but they could kind of get close to the 40-win mark. Maybe not this year, maybe next year. They kind of remind me of the Cavaliers, the way the Cavaliers are going right now. They have that young talent, and they just need to find a way to play together, and they could, if they keep, once again, a free agency doesn't kill them before they can get everyone meshing. Eventually, they could become something. But I would have to agree with you. I'd be amazed if they won like 36, 37 games.
I'm also not buying. I don't buy Emeka Okafor as an NBA center.
No,
I just don't. He's he's rehabbing an injured neck, so who knows what that'll do. But you don't have some kind of post presence. He averaged 1 block per game last year. That's not going to do it out of the 5. From a strictly defensive standpoint.
Well, I mean, you look at him; he's only 6'10". I mean, he's an inch taller than LeBron James.
Yeah,
and he's playing center.
You're not going to go anywhere.
No. And he doesn't have. He really doesn't have that good of athleticism. If you're going to be a 6'10" guy playing center, you have to be like a Chris Bosh, who might have had a struggle last season, but he still was. He's a very athletic guy at 6'10", and he can play that position because he can make up for his height. But Okafor, I agree with you. I don't think he has that ability.
Also in the division, as far as the depths of hell, the Charlotte Bobcats, the last year being known as the Bobcats before they return to the Charlotte Hornets, that will hearken images of Muggsy Bogues and Grandmama, but this team will look nothing like those. Oh, and Alonzo Mourning, don't forget, back in the day. Kemba Walker still trying to prove that he can play point guard. I don't know what it is about UConn guys. I just automatically assume they can't play. Gerald
That's
Henderson.
not Syracuse talking, is it?
No, I don't know.
No.
Gerald Henderson at the 2, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist at the 3, Al Jefferson at the 5, Cody Zeller, the rookie, at the 4. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, comes out of Kentucky last year, and everyone was talking about how this kid could be the best one out of the draft class, blah, blah, blah. And then yesterday I'm reading on Twitter about people talking about his jump shot may be permanently broken. It's like we are such, what's the word I'm looking for?
Negative nannies.
No, we flip flop and turn on a dime. You know, all of these so-called experts that are supposedly know what they're talking about, and they've watched enough basketball that they can tell when something's good. How do you go from being a sure thing to your jumper being permanently broken?
Yeah.
You don't know that by watching how the kid shoots in college? I mean, I don't know.
But it's just, how do you make that statement? Permanently broken.
Yeah, it's like, it is possible for people to be coached, but if it's that bad of a habit where you really don't feel like it's going to make any long-term improvement, then let the kid play. It's obviously worked for him so far. Stop trying to change him. You know?
It's bad.
They get
it's bad.
Syracuse alum 3-point specialist James Sutherland in the draft as well. But I got to tell you, the longer Michael Jordan has any kind of to do with an NBA franchise, the more we just kind of appreciate him as a player.
Yeah.
Kwame
and
Brown,
I mean this with all respect. He's kind of like when Magic Johnson was diddling with the Lakers, and you're like, you're a great player, but I don't think you should deal with operations anymore, please.
The only other team left in the Southeast Division, no wonder LeBron went to the Southeast. There is nobody freaking in this division anymore. Not that he knew that when he went, but I'm just saying. The team left smoldering in the ashes in the wake of the Dwight Howard fiasco 2 seasons ago. Not completely different than the Dwight Howard fiasco last season, but the Dwight Howard fiasco of 2 seasons ago, where you're left with a team with Jameer Nelson still running the point, Aaron Aflalo at the 2, but he's got pressure from the rookie, first-round pick Victor Oladipo out of Indiana, Toby Harris, and Mo Harkless at the 3, Glenn Davis, Big Baby Davis at the 4, and Nikola Vucevic, who a lot of people say is underrated and is probably the one guy that, report that what I've read, that Doug Collins was not real happy about giving up in the trade that ultimately sent Andrew Bynum to Philadelphia. They weren't all that successful last year, and if Oladipo, if his college game can translate to the NBA, they're not going to set the world on fire, but they could be creeping up into the 40-win range.
I don't know. I mean, when the second best player on your roster right now is Glenn Baby Davis, I think you have issues.
A lot of this centers around whether Oladipo can play or not.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say
they have too big a mountain to climb. I mean, it's tough to look at that team and to have any kind of positive, warm, fuzzy feeling. I mean, especially you look at it, they're opening their season against the Indiana Pacers at Indiana. So, I mean, you're already starting out 0-1 because there's no way they're going to win that. And then, I mean, they have a very tough start to their schedule because they have to go to Minnesota. They're home against New Orleans, which should be good, but then they have to play Brooklyn, the Clippers, Boston, who knows how they're going to be, but then Atlanta, Milwaukee, Dallas, Miami twice. I mean, they don't have an easy run for a team that's struggling the way they are. So to me, once again, I think they're going to be sweeping up the basement once again.
The one thing somebody needs to provide somewhere, somehow, is perimeter shooting. Just very quickly clicking through the names here.
You got Hedo Turkoglu. Come on.
Yeah, who tested positive for steroids, and he still sucked. So, well, I don't know what that says about Hedo.
2.9 points a game is not good, Keith.
It was bad enough to test positive for performance-enhancing drugs in this day and age, but to still suck after you take them, what's the point of taking them then?
Yeah. No, that's true.
And that's our trip around the Southeast Division. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we will be joined by Jim Saranteas, the Fantasy Greek, for the best hour in Internet radio, the NFL Hour on 87 Live. You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio.
Ready? 1. You will do this 4 times with the left, 4 with the right, then 8 times with both, then repeat.
You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. Keith Grieve and Steve Taylor here, taking you in through the best hour of internet radio, the NFL Hour with Jim Saranteas, the Fantasy Greek. Mr. Saranteas, thank you.
Keith and Steve, thanks for having me, and thank you for giving me the new shout with Beastie Boys.
Hey, we talked, before, because we did our a Week 4 Starts and Sit 'em special edition on 87 Sports Fans Radio last Saturday, and you seem so amped up about the possibility of the Beastie Boys that I have now shifted your intro music from Steppenwolf, Born to Be Wild, to Body Moving by the Beastie Boys. So there you have it.
I do appreciate the new move. I like the Beastie Boys a little better.
You're anti-Steppenwolf now, Steve?
No, I like Steppenwolf.
I don't even know who you are anymore.
But just the Beastie Boys, it fits.
See, if you guys could see me, it'd be sort of like John Clayton. You would see me kind of sitting here, and instead of being all, I'd be professional, and then the music would start, and then suddenly I'm dancing a little bit.
I'm not heartbroken. I can't see that. I'm just kidding.
Well, that's not nice, Steven. That's just not
I
nice.
said I was kidding, Keith.
Okay.
Jeez.
Alrighty. So last week we finished up. Jim and Steve finished tied with 10-5 record, and I was 8-7. The games that tripped me up: my belief in Tampa Bay and Mike Glennon, which I was this close to being right about, and the Dolphins. I rode that Dolphin train right into the ground. And did Drew Brees make me pay? Mm-hmm. Oh, my gosh. But without further ado, let us begin the 87 Sports Fans NFL Week 4 Roundtable. And I will begin with myself at the San Francisco 49ers and St. Louis Rams game on Thursday night. And what can I say, folks? If there was any doubt about the 49ers, well, the Rams were the right team to answer those questions. This game was over just about after halftime. The Rams seemed to put up a good fight, but very similar to what I've seen out of the Cleveland Browns so far this game, a decent defense that gets hung out to dry by an offense that can't seem to do anything. The St. Louis rushing attack, 19 carries for 18 yards. Really? There's got to be something more that they can do. I don't know what the answer is. More. There it is. The 49ers seem to have found their groove better than Stella, and St. Louis, lots of questions need to be pointed at Jeff Fisher at this point. And let's go on to who's next up on the rundown here. I gotta find my email here. I had it and it was gone. Jim
doing the Chicago
and Detroit.
Sure. And I will preface this for everybody out there. I actually have some copy together here, so I'm just going to get through it. In the games that I was assigned, my copy for this first game is a little long, so I will apologize in advance, but it gets shorter as we go. All right, Lions 40, Bears 32. Give me some music, baby.
You got it.
Lions 40, Bears 32. This was a huge win for a Lions team over its intra-division rival Bears, which sets the Lions up nicely for what could end up being a decisive game against the Packers this weekend. For the Bears, the loss was bigger than the final score suggests. It's great to see Matt Stafford bounce back as he has this season, finishing with 242 yards passing and 2 scores. Give a lot of credit to Reggie Bush, who has made the Lions offense come alive, posting another overly impressive 173 all-purpose yards and a TD. Can you say fantasy stud? It makes what we'll call a mediocre outing of 44 yards and 1 TD for the mega Calvin Johnson sting a little less. As a side note, the Lions still need another receiver to step up the passing game or risk being another one-and-done type of team if they get there. The Lions' defense, you may not like them, but against the Bears, they got the job done. 3 sacks, 3 interceptions, 1 defensive fumble recovery, and 1 defensive touchdown, the latter of which was likely the difference in this game. For the Bears, Chicago, they're not who you think they are yet. This game was a reminder that all the pieces may not be there. Jay Cutler is still a little flawed, as is the offensive line, against a top-notch defensive line like the Lions. But 317 yards passing and 2 TDs without all the turnovers, that would be a good stat line. The Bears can finish as one of the top teams in the league. Got a feeling a lot of that will have to do with Matt Forte, with another solid outing, posting 117 all-purpose yards and 1 TD. The Bears found something nice in Alshon Jeffrey this weekend, who broke out this week for 107 yards and 1 TD. The Bears better bear down because the Saints, they are marching in.
Steve, Baltimore Buffalo.
All right. This game it showed truly what is important in football. You have a team like Buffalo who they are a very young team, their offense especially. You have players like CJ Spiller, who unfortunately got injured during this game. But you have another person in Fred Jackson, who I still think is the best running back on that team, just because of his experience and abilities. Able to come in, and even though he had a couple fumbles, his experience and leadership helped young EJ Manuel, who once again had showed signs of being able to be that quarterback that Buffalo has been looking for, especially after the 42-yard touchdown pass to Robert Woods in the second quarter. But overall, still not a good game. But you look at this team, they are living off their defense right now, which Buffalo's defense is starting to gel and starting to become one of those top 5 defenses in this league. And you look at what they did against Joe Flacco. I mean, 5 interceptions against a $120 million quarterback is very impressive. Baltimore, on the other hand, I'm going to put it out there very simply. It doesn't matter how many times you throw the ball. It doesn't matter how good your defense is. When you run the ball 9 times, and that's it, 9 total times for 24 yards, I don't care who you are. I don't care what division you're in. You will not win a game in the NFL only rushing the ball 9 times. And that's what I have to say about that.
All right, Cincinnati at Cleveland. Cincinnati came into this game 2-1, looking to take a step forward in the AFC North, the befuddled AFC North. The Browns, I'm a believer in Brian Hoyer. A winner in his first start comes in. No one believed that he could do it again. I didn't. I picked the Bengals. Brian Hoyer finishes 25 of 38 for 269, 2 picks, but 2 touchdowns. Most importantly, no interceptions. Willis McGahee comes back from the dead to carry the ball 15 times for 46 yards, 3.1 average. Big deal. Not important. The story here is the Cleveland defense holding A.J. Green 7 catches for 51 yards. His longest catch was 16 yards. He was targeted 15 times, only came away with 7 catches. Tip your cap to the Cleveland doing what was necessary, playing to whatever strengths it is that they have, and they take a big division game at home. Jim, Giants, Chiefs.
Giants 7, Chiefs 31. Football is a game of inches, but it's about something else too. Putting points on the board and stopping the other team from scoring. The Chiefs understand this concept. The Giants don't seem to. Eli Manning could just play catch with Victor Cruz every game, but that gets you nowhere. Hakeem Nicks, Reuben Randall, Brandon Myers, and David Wilson need to step it up soon if the Giants are to have a chance. Because scoring just 7 points generally doesn't win you ball games. Hey, O-line, how about a little protection here, too? You know, there was talk of people being punched this week. What? Hey, defense, worry a little less about punching a teammate and focus on punching the guys that are on the other side of the line. Lucky for the Giants, the upcoming schedule favors them strongly. They better take advantage of it for Tom Coughlin's sake. The Chiefs. This could be the most complete game the Chiefs have had to date on offense and defense. The defense is the story here, rambling ahead to sack Manning 3 times and to score once, among other things. The offense, Alex Smith actually can do more than not make mistakes. 288 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. What? Can't wait to see the Chiefs play the Broncos. Can you say upset?
Steve, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, in London.
I'm sorry, that was a fun upset. Sounded like the Brady Bunch. All right, well, I'm going to start with Pittsburgh. I kind of feel bad. I can't believe I'm saying this about a rapist, but I kind of feel bad for Ben Roethlisberger. Here's a guy that is, so far in the season, putting up solid numbers. I mean, he's putting up, elite quarterback numbers, but he has no running game. He has a decent wide receiving core, no offensive line, and a very old defense. And I would have to agree with him, even though the Jaguars are undoubtedly the worst team in football. Pittsburgh is pretty close to being there, just because of the fact that Yeah, he can put up the numbers, but that defense cannot stop anybody. Now, going over to Minnesota, finally Adrian Peterson, once again, they are playing in London against, as I said, an older defense. Adrian Peterson looked like the Adrian Peterson of last year, putting up 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. But the big storyline, and I think the storyline going forward, is Matt Castle should be, and I believe will be, the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, because Christian Ponder, never in his wildest dreams, could put up 248 yards and 2 touchdowns with a 123 quarterback rating. And to me, Matt Castle looks like the Matt Castle from New England, and not the Matt Castle that pretty much almost destroyed his career in Kansas City. So to me, I think this was a big stepping stone for Minnesota, and I wouldn't be surprised if they start making some noise.
Cardinals 13, Buccaneers 10. Mike Glennon gets his first start in the wake of the Josh Freeman debacle. And like I said on last week's show, I believe that he was going to be good enough to not lose this game. And for one half of a football game, he was. And then the second half caught up to him. And Arizona's defense, who made it very tough on Doug Martin, 27 carries for 45 yards, a 1.7 yard average. Eventually, they made Glennon work, and he threw a god-awful pick 6. That being said, Arizona only managed to beat a first-time rookie starting quarterback by 3 points due to that pick 6. I wouldn't hang my hat on anything too much over there on the Arizona sideline. With Tampa, all this did was further the rumors of Greg Schiano leaving for one of the vacated college jobs at the end of the year. Neither situation looks very good. Jim, Indianapolis had Jacksonville.
Colts 37, Jaguars 3. What's there to really talk about here? That the Colts were the next team to stomp on the league doormat known as the Jaguars? Well, since you asked, Andrew Luck, 260 yards passing, 2 TDs, made fantasy managers who drafted him early still feel good about the pick. Colby Fleener, who went for 77 and 1. That's 77 yards and 1 TD, Steve. Should be
I know.
just want to be sure.
I appreciate that.
Sure. Should be good. Should be good the rest of the season with Dwayne Allen out. Soon Trent Richardson will get his legs and really break out for a big game after a 66 all-purpose yard, 1 TD performance this week. Reggie Wayne, 100 yards, 1 TD, continues to remain ageless. Jaguars, first you failed to draft the best quarterback available in this draft to replace the bad one you already had. Then you decide not to play the better quarterback you have, but the bad one you already have. Then, while still playing the bad quarterback you have, you trade away your starting left tackle. What? I feel like more things could get done if fans could trade coaches, management, or ownership. Dear Roger Goodell.
Steve, Seattle at Houston.
I'm still trying to do the math on the Jaguars thing.
Good luck.
Quarterback. Okay, I'm sorry. I forgot to carry a quarterback.
So did they.
I'm gonna start with the Houston Texans. I mean, honestly, this game was eye-opening, I think, for as dominant as Seattle looked going into this game against Houston. The Texans won this game if it wasn't for a god-awful rookie mistake made by a 10-year veteran in Matt Schaub. That pick 6 throw at the end of in the fourth quarter to Richard Sherman was one of the worst. I mean, I don't see any of the rookie quarterbacks this season even making a throw that bad. I mean, that was one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. And to me, the Houston Texans, they looked so promising throughout this whole game, and they are still my pick to win the Super Bowl. Because you just see what they have as far as defense, as far as offense. Arian Foster finally, now mind you, it took 27 carries, but finally breaking the 100-yard mark. And Matt Schaub, 355 yards, 2 touchdowns, and unfortunately those 2 picks. I mean, they're playing against who everyone believed next to Denver is the best team in football, being the Seattle Seahawks. And they put up 20 points in a quarter on them. I mean, at halftime it was 20-3 Houston. Now, Seattle is notorious for playing either really good in the first half or really good in the second half, but not good all game. For me, though, this was a very interesting game, and going forward, I'm excited to see what's going to happen with both of these teams, because I think this is the wake-up call for Houston, and even though I am picking against them this week, I would not be surprised if Matt Schaub goes out there and plays the game of his life to make up for that loss, which is, in my opinion, 100% on his shoulders.
All right. New York Jets 13, Tennessee Titans 38. Well, this game would probably be the beginning of what we call running downhill for the Tennessee Titans if it didn't result in the loss of Jake Locker for at least 4 weeks due to a hip injury. And that also ushered on the emergence of Ryan Fitzpatrick. Yes, Bills fans, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Geno Smith throws 2 interceptions. It was like a throwback game to the Mark Sanchez era. They do average 4 yards a carry on the ground, but it doesn't mean much as even Fitzpatrick manages to throw a 77-yard touchdown pass to Nate Washington to seal the deal. Again, the takeaway from this game is the loss of Locker and what that means to the Tennessee Titans, who were, after this game, they finished 7th in the 87 Sports Fans NFL Power Rankings. They were going places, and now it remains to be seen what happens. A tragic, tragic loss. Jim, Philadelphia at Denver.
Okay, the Eagles lost this game 20-52 to the Broncos. In a week where the Eagles' offense should have taken flight, it sputtered and struggled to score 2 touchdowns. One was scored by the backup quarterback, and the other one was scored by the backup to the backup running back. Chip Kelly offense, which looked fresh, quirky, but innovated just 1 week ago, now looks old, dated, and unimaginative. Where are the vigorated players from week 1? Come back! Broncos. Everyone got in on the action, including the defense, which had 2 return TDs. In one word, Peyton Manning. 327 yards, 4 TDs. We spoke of him as a great quarterback, then an innovator, then as a master, and now maybe even a god. The Broncos better continue. I'm sorry.
Wow.
The Broncos better continue having a great season and win the Super Bowl. I can't imagine a better offense than this one, ever. And I'm not sure I want to see one. Or see Manning on one lesser than this one.
All right, Steve, Redskins at the Raiders.
I could just picture Jim staring at a picture of Peyton Manning as he was talking about that. I'm sorry, it's all
Sort
I
of
can
like
think
that
about.
Saturday Night Live skit.
Yeah, if it had that Peyton face, you'd just be like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh, Peyton." Sorry.
And then he touched it at the end when he said, "You're a god." And just okay, okay. Washington, Oakland. Honestly, this to me was just an ugly game. And Washington, yeah, they played better. But they played against an Oakland team who their best running back in Darren McFadden only had 5 carries before he left with an injury. And the starting quarterback, Matt Flynn, is now the 3rd-string quarterback because of the poor performance he put up. Oakland, they are better this year, but they still are not one of the creme of the creme of the NFL. And so Washington going in there, getting this win. I mean, yeah, they won by 10 points, but I still did not see anything for both Robert Griffin or the defense to make me think that this was a turnaround game. I think Washington still has a lot of problems, and I mean, Oakland, they're Oakland. I don't know what else to say about that, really.
Chargers 30, Cowboys 21. You can't hang this one on Tony Romo. Didn't turn the ball over this time. 27 of 37 for 246, 2 touchdowns. The problem for Dallas is that all of their offensive output came in the second quarter. 21 points, lighten it up going into the half, but tip your cap to the Chargers making the adjustments they needed and just kept plugging along and coming away with a 30-21 win. Phillip Rivers, 35 of 42 for 401 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he did have a pick, but you can't ask for more. Has any quarterback in the league besides Peyton Manning come back from the freaking ashes to be as dominant as Phillip Rivers has been the first 4 weeks? He was off week 3, but 3 out of the 4 weeks he's been on. Des Bryant targeted 9 times, Jason Witten 10 times. They're not doing much wrong on Dallas. They just needed to find a way to score more points. For San Diego, Antonio Gates, the resurgence of Antonio Gates. Talking about players coming back from the ashes. Targeted 10 times. Guess how many catches he had? 10 for 136 and a touchdown. Is Antonio Gates the fantasy beast he once was? Sure looks like it. Jim, New England at Atlanta.
Before I begin, I think what we should do when we talk about some of these players that are studs, we should have a stud alarm to sort of go off.
I'll make it happen. I'll make it happen for next week.
All right. I enjoyed writing this one. Patriots 30, Falcons 23. The only people talking about Rob Gronkowski are people that have Rob Gronkowski in fantasy football. I really don't care about him anymore. I am much more interested in watching the effort Tom Brady is putting forth with guys like Kembrell Tompkins and Julian Edelman. The rushing game is a bit of a mess, but hey, it works. The loss of Vince Wilfork could be, excuse me for saying this, huge.
Because Wilfork's huge? Is that where you were going with that?
Yes.
As subtle as it was, I got it. I got caught on to that one.
This was a great win for the Patriots and brings them closer to being called a legitimate, undefeated team. Despite all the injured players, the Falcons are impressive, especially Matt Ryan. Against a good defense that did its best to limit his best receiver, Julio Jones, to 108 yards, Ryan broke out for 421 yards and 2 TDs. Tony Gonzalez needs to shut up about retiring. No one that can post 149 yards and 2 TDs needs to stop working. Expect the Falcons to bounce back nicely against the Jets Monday night.
Not for nothing. Tony Gonzalez single-handedly made me lose my fantasy matchup to my wife in my league.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I went to bed thinking that I fell asleep on the couch actually thinking I had won that game, and it was all over.
Did she get up in your face and do one of those
I hope she did.
To her credit, she handled herself with class, but she did make one stray. She did make one stray Facebook comment that just going. Anyway, Steve-O, last game of the week, Miami at New Orleans.
All right, I don't think those who are backers of Miami, which includes all three of us, should really look at this game and take anything that negative away from it. The only thing I would look at is Tannehill did have 3 picks, which even though New Orleans defense is improving, that's still a little concerning. But to me, going to New Orleans and playing, especially on a Monday night game against Drew Brees and that offense, it's a no-win situation. I mean, there's very few teams. I would even be surprised if Denver, as good as they're playing right now, could go into New Orleans on a big night game, either Sunday night or Monday night game, and actually beat the Saints. Because, everyone talks about Peyton Manning, who is having a great season, but he has probably some of the best receivers anyone could ever ask for on his team right now. Drew Brees, to me, is just one step behind what Manning is doing, not only statistically, but just flat-out ability-wise. I mean, he had 413 yards and 4 touchdowns, and he was 30 for 39. I mean, that stat line against a really solid Miami defense is unbelievable. So to me, I was not surprised by this outcome, and I think more people have to start paying attention to New Orleans, because there's still, when you hear talk about best teams in the league, they're still talking about Denver, they're still talking about Seattle, they're talking about New England, and then a little farther down the list they're mentioning New Orleans, which New Orleans is putting up a serious fight right now for that best place in the NFC.
When I was watching this game, the part that was killing me was that the Dolphins weren't really playing bad defense. They had a couple blown coverages, but they weren't really playing bad defense. Just Drew Brees was just, his accuracy was just incredible.
He's amazing. He is absolutely amazing.
Putting the ball exactly where it had to be. And they are 4th on the 87 Sports Fans Power Rankings this week. Check them out at 87sportsfans.com if you haven't already. Well, let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to get into our Week 5 picks. You don't want to miss this. You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio.
it wasn't even up for a day.
You're listening to 87 Live on 87 Sports Fans Radio. Last segment of the night, Keith Grieve and Steve Taylor from 87 Sports Fans, accompanied by Jim Saranteas, the Fantasy Greek from thefantasygreek.com. We just recapped Week 4 in the NFL, and now we are going to get into our Week 5 picks. And first, let's start with the games we all agree on. We all agree that New Orleans will beat the Bears in Chicago, that the Patriots will beat the Cincinnati Bengals. We all agree on the Dolphins beating the Ravens at home, the Packers beating the Lions at home, the Denver Broncos beating the Cowboys in Dallas, the Chargers beating the Raiders in Oakland, and the Atlanta Falcons getting off the schneid versus the Jets on Monday Night Football at home. So last week I said at the beginning of the football hour, I went 8-7. Jim and Steve went 10-5. So that runs my 2-week record to 16-15. Jim is at 20-11, and Steven is at 17-14. So if you're wondering who to listen to, don't listen to me. Anyway,
I never thought I'd hear you say that out loud.
For now, anyway, until I can come up with the math to justify it. All right, so let's start with one of the first game that we disagree on is tomorrow night's game, Buffalo at Cleveland. Jim and I have picked the Browns. Steve, you are the lone standout picking the Buffalo Bills. Justify yourself.
For me, I think what has happened the last 2 weeks with Cleveland is just a fluke. Because I look at the Cleveland Browns, and they should not have won that game last week. They did. They've been showing unbelievable gumption after the whole losing Trent Richardson, and you know, every person, including Jim and I, were pretty much saying that was the dumbest move, and it's, I don't know why you would do it, and then they went and won 2 in a row. So obviously they knew something, and we didn't. But to me, I look at them still, and I know Buffalo is having a hard time right now. They have some injuries on defense, and their offense is doing better, but it's still struggling, especially now with Spiller out and Fred Jackson not 100%. But I still look at Buffalo, and I see something in that team. I see enough for them to go on the road on Thursday night and beat Cleveland.
I don't see it happening. I think Cleveland's defense is too tough. I think that now you're going to see a conundrum, because I think Brian Hoyer is going to get in a little bit of a rhythm. And Jim, you were talking during the break about some of the injuries to the Buffalo defense. Maybe you can go into that now if anyone's considering the Bills' defense for fantasy. Yeah,
for sure. I checked the injury report tonight as I was putting together my top 5 starts at quarterback, as well as the fact is I picked up Brian Hoyer this week in one of my leagues, and I'm going to start him this week.
Wow.
Yeah, and here's why. First off, when you look at the Bills, I think it was in Week 3, they had 3 notable inactives. One was, and I hope I don't butcher these names, I apologize in advance, Leon McLevin, Jarius Byrd, as well as Stephon Gilmore. Stephon Gilmore has already been ruled out. And then Jarius Byrd and McLevin they're questionable, and I think Byrd will miss again because he's got plantar fasciitis in both feet. And I don't believe if he's practiced, he's been limited. So their pass defense not very good here. When you flip it around and look at the Browns' offense, I mean, in the past 2 weeks, the Browns have thrown the ball 92 times. 92. That is obscene. That's 40 sometimes in one game, 50 sometimes in the other, and you know, and they're successful, and they're going to keep doing that. That's their strength on offense right now. As long as they're not up against a team that has a formidable secondary, which even if they did, who cares? Sooner or later, those guys are going to make mistakes. It puts teams on their heels and it forces them into a one-dimensional offense. I love the Browns in this instance, particularly playing at home, and it helps to have the defense that they have. The Bills themselves, I mean, E.J. Manuel's great, but he's a 250-yard, 1 TD guy. To beat the Browns, you're going to need a 250, 2 to 3 TD guy, or some other player on the field like Fred Jackson, or C.J. Spiller to make up what E.J. Manuel can't do. And I don't see that happening in this instance. And I think Cleveland Browns 3-2,
and in danger of becoming the leader in that division.
Isn't that amazing?
That is.
I mean, all my articles that I'm writing now. I mean, my waiver wire article, in quotes, it said, "Hath hell freezeth over."
Yeah.
The guy that wrote the review of the Browns game from last week wrote, "Has anybody checked the temperature in hell?"
Right.
I mean, what's going on here? So, it's amazing. I wish Trent Richardson was still on this team because they're playing some good ball right now.
The next game that we disagree with, ironically, Steve-O, you are also the lone dissenter. Seattle at Indianapolis. Jim and I both picked the Seahawks. Steven, you think the Colts have a chance in this one?
I absolutely do. And not only do I think they have a chance, right now the Seahawks are the point spread is 3. They're giving the Colts 3 points. So not only do I think the Colts are going to win this, but I think this is going to be a lock as far as anyone that wants to put money on the game. The Colts, to me, first off, the Seahawks. Last week against Houston, they showed a lot of issues that, like I said before when I was doing the rundown, that not a lot of people in the first 3 weeks, they almost looked like they could potentially be untouchable. But then that game last week at Houston, they lost that game if it wasn't for Matt Schaub throwing up a gimme pick six. That game was over with. The Indianapolis Colts, their offense is playing amazing. I mean, you look at Andrew Luck is having, obviously he's not fallen into the sophomore slump like RG3. I mean, or you could even say Kaepernick. Andrew Luck is playing amazing football. Reggie Wayne, and I know Jim has said this before, it's like he found the fountain of youth. He is playing amazing. And then you look at Trent Richardson, who last week started to seem like he's clicking more with the offense. And with Ahmad Bradshaw being out this week and Richardson being the starter, I think that it is going to become a very dangerous offense. And Seattle, once again, they proved on the road they had issues. They had issues at Houston. They were able to come back in the fourth quarter, but before that comeback, they were really getting blown out of that game going in the second half. So to me, Indy's offense and their defense isn't the best, but they are a very talented defense, and I think they will play well enough to kind of stymie Seattle, which Seattle's offense, Wilson is having a good year. Lynch is having a solid year. He still has a couple games where he's not been his best. And then their receiving core is good, but once again, not great. So to me, I think Indy has what it takes to not only win this game, but to make some strides in the AFC.
Well, looking at the if you sort by defensive ranking, the Seahawks are ranked 3rd. The Colts are right there at 4th.
Yeah.
So they have a decent defense. I just like Seattle. I like the way that they're much more physical on defense when I watch them, and I just like the fact that they have 2 really good corners that will make Andrew Luck really work for his money. Jim?
Good teams like the Seahawks win on the road, and that's what they did last week against the Texans. I can't compare the Colts defensively or offensively to even the Houston Texans, and I think the Colts would lose that game when that game occurs. And here's why. I like Andrew Luck. I'm not sure that he's at a level yet that he'll be able to handle a defense like this. I don't think he's got exactly the right weapons on the field. I do like Reggie Wayne. I don't think he's Andre Johnson. Trent Richardson. If the Colts are going to beat the Seahawks, they're going to have to get Trent Richardson involved, and he's going to have a huge game. The way to beat the Seahawks is not by throwing the ball. it's by running the ball. And defensively, I know the Colts are ranked pretty high, but I mean, I'm looking at their schedule so far. It's been Oakland, Miami, San Francisco, and Jacksonville. So, at least two of those teams I would say are offensively challenged, and even the Dolphins, to the extent I like them a lot more, Tannehill is not putting up the kinds of numbers that make him an elite quarterback. The San Francisco loss was troubling because of how Colin Kaepernick played. I'm not so sure how much of that you would put up on the Colts. So I can't see the Colts doing this at home. God bless them if they do, because it would be a big statement. I think the Seahawks are that good of a dominant team.
It remains to be seen, do we see the Colts that throttled the 49ers, or do we see the Colts that struggled to beat the Raiders in week 1? So the next game that we disagree with, and this is my turn, is the Philadelphia Eagles at the New York Giants. The New York Giants have been god-awful. There is no other way around it. You can't hide it. They haven't been able to defend. They haven't been able to protect Eli Manning, and they haven't been able to run the ball worth a damn. So why am I picking them in this game? Well, you know what? It's the Philadelphia Eagles. They're not that much better total. Sure, their offense is high-powered and all, but their defense is not where it needs to be. How much of that is because they're on the field so much? I don't know. But the Giants are at home. Tom Coughlin is a good coach, and something's got to give. Sometime this is a division matchup, and if they're going to get off the schneid, this is the week.
And Keith, I wanted to jump in because on my sheet I actually wrote a question mark by that game and crossed it out because I think it's a tough game to call. You're right. I think if there's a game the Giants can and should win, this is it. They're heading into a stretch of their schedule that is actually quite favorable to them in their passing game. The opponents are not ridiculously great, and I think you're right. Both the Eagles and the Giants, their pass defenses are awful. Mm-hmm. The only reason why I'm sticking with the Eagles on this one is because I'm a numbers guy, and the numbers are pointing to just a bunch of issues that the Giants certainly can cure and walk out with a win. But until they do that, I'm kind of like, I think I got to go with the team that, looking at all these different things, it points to them as much as I could see the Giants winning this game. I mean, look, Victor, in fantasy football, I know what my chore is going to be this week. When people come to me and say, do I play Eli Manning? Do I play Victor Cruz? Do I play Hakeem Nicks? Do I play David Wilson? Because in this game, they all have favorable matchups. And yet, you've got to sit there and somebody could throw out a decent enough player, and boy, Hakeem Nicks has been awful, and yet, wow, he could actually blow it up this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I look at the Eagles. Yeah, they're 1-3. They are having severe defensive issues, but their offense, a lot of it, I think they're still adjusting to the Chip Kelly method, but their offense has gelled. I mean, they have some playmakers that have played together in Vic, McCoy, and Jackson that have played together well for long enough that their offense is not an issue. But I look at the Giants, and like you said, Jim, their defense is bad, but their offense is a disorganized mess. And I've always been the biggest Eli Manning supporter. But this season, they don't look like they know what they're doing. They don't look like they've played a day in the NFL or have even played together. I mean, it's kind of disturbing watching them play because for so many seasons, they've been able to go through these issues and kind of work out of it. But you look at the way they've played, including last week, and you're like, I don't know if they can work out of this hole. They look like they're just getting worse with each game. And that's kind of disheartening for me because I'm not a Giants fan, but I've always been, like I said, an Eli supporter. So I've always kind of rooted for them a little bit to do well. And, I mean, I think right now they are pushing Jacksonville as the worst team in the league. With the talent they have, it's surprising to say that because the Jaguars don't have really any talent on their team. But the Giants are, in my opinion, right there as the worst team because their offense, it's almost like watching a Three Stooges show. I mean, you have Mo, Larry, and Curly running into each other, and Eli fumbling it or getting sacked 8 times or throwing interceptions, which there's no one near, no one from the Giants anywhere near where he's throwing the ball. And it's just a mess. And I don't know how it's going to get fixed. I really don't.
In defense of the Giants, and I know I'm saying in defense of, and people can say, well, it's indefensible. It's true. But the best defensive team they played last week, and they were fortunate enough to get a touchdown against them. Part of that, they played the Panthers, who shut them down, which I thought was amazing, because here's a Panthers team that, while great defensive line, great set of linebackers, that secondary, I can't say that they're the greatest. I mean, they're made up of guys that were backups, basically, either on the Panthers or on other teams that they brought in. Because I'm not sold on the Panthers defense just yet. I think this week will be a big week for them to prove something. But, Eli Manning put up 450 yards against the Cowboys, but he had 3 interceptions. 362 yards against the Broncos, 4 interceptions. And those kinds of things are going to kill you. Mm-hmm. So, they've got a lot of right things going on, but they've got a lot of wrong things too. And, they're right there. Just some of the bad things have to stop. And as soon as they can correct that, they could very quickly turn the table and very quickly become, the team that people have always feared they could be. But until that, that's why I sort of have to pick the Eagles in this instance. But from a fantasy perspective, I love the matchup for some of their players. Is just, last week the only one worth playing was Victor Cruz, and outside of him, it's a disaster.
Yeah,
it was a disaster.
Well, and the messed up thing, if you think about this, like you said, if the Giants can turn it around, because if they do beat the Eagles this week, then you have a 3-way tie, because I don't think anyone doubts the Broncos are going to destroy the Cowboys. You're going to have a 3-way tie for second place, only 1 game behind Dallas in that division. Mm-hmm. So really, any one of those teams, even though they're 1-4 or whatnot, they still have a shot at that division, which is insane.
Keith, I'm interested to hear from you, if only because you're the one that picked the Giants.
Honestly, it's a gut feeling. Look, you throw what you've seen out the window in division games usually, because even when the lowest team in a hotly contested division rivalry, just as the Eagles and Giants is a historical rivalry, adrenaline gets ramped up, and usually the game doesn't play out like you would think. The Giants need to, in my opinion, figure out how to run the ball before they figure out how to pass the ball. Because they are ranked 32nd in the league in rushing attempts. They've only run the ball 70 times in 4 games.
Oh, it's awful.
That's just, and you have a talent like David Wilson. I know that he's had the bad fumbles in week 1. I know that he fumbled in week 1 last year too. But he's your back. Whether you want to admit it or not, Tom Coughlin, he's your back. And if you're not feeding him, and Coughlin's a good coach. He's won 2 Super Bowls. He knows this better than I do. But they need to figure that out if they're going to go anywhere. Does it happen this week? Well, we just got done talking about how bad Philly's defense is. So are they going to come out here? Are they going to stonewall this offense and win 24-0? No, absolutely not. But a score, if this game gets into like the 35-31 range and Eli happens to not turn the ball over and they somehow find a way to run the ball and control a little bit more of the clock than they're already going to have the opportunity to because of Philadelphia's fast-paced, up-tempo offense, a 35-31 game, Eli can win. No, when I get going, there's no stopping me.
And let me add to this. I mean, when I do my research, and for the people who are members of the Skybox on my website, thefantasygrieve.com, what's made available to everybody is what's called fantasy points allowed, and it's a metric that I use in order to just gauge the favorableness of a matchup. Who has a more favorable matchup by position, by team? So, for example, against the Eagles have given up in 4 games 18.68 fantasy points per game to the running back position. That means, on average, there's close to 19 fantasy points that a group of running backs are posting up against them. So that could be 130 yards rushing or 100, a combination of rushing and receiving, and 1 TD. That's a very favorable metric. And you're sitting there going, oh, even if David Wilson gives up some touches to Darrell Scott, gives up some touches to Brandon Jacobs, and he even scores on a 2-yard run, that still puts him in line for 100 all-purpose yards. And in today's modern fantasy football world, that's actually a good number. So, you're kind of looking at this going, we should start the guy.
Right.
But it also sort of suggests to you, hey, this is a weakness on this team. And throw on top of that weakness, the weakness against the wide receivers. The Eagles give up the most fantasy points to wide receivers, to the 36. So start doing the math there. That's enough for 2 wide receivers to each have a 100-yard game, to each have a touchdown, and still have 40 yards to distribute to somebody. Mm-hmm. That's a great matchup for not just one wide receiver, but for sure 2, maybe 3.
Right.
So, these things are pointing in favor of the Giants. The question is whether or not they'll be able to take advantage of it.
And at home, I'm willing to take that shot.
And I think that's a great point. And I think ultimately, from what I'm going to be doing, I think I'm going to sit there and say the same thing.
Right. Yeah, but you're picking the Eagles. You're on record. You're picking the Eagles. No, don't go back on me now.
No, I'm not going to. I'm not, because still, at the end of the day, the football game is a little bit different than the fantasy football game.
Right.
And to me, the numbers are pointing that the Eagles should win, and that's who I'm sticking with. I would say it's a close call.
All right. Next game we disagree on is the Kansas City Chiefs at the Tennessee Titans. Jim and Steve are both picking the Chiefs. I believe in this Titans defense. I do. They're at home. Actually, you know what? I take that back. I forgot to adjust my pick because I wrote that and then I remembered Jake Locker was out and Ryan Fitzpatrick was the quarterback. No,
you can go back now.
I'm picking the Chiefs. No, that was my pick. I forgot to edit it. Then we'll turn the table. Steve, you're on the clock now. Carolina at Arizona. Jim and I are both picking the Carolina Panthers. You are picking the Arizona Cardinals at home.
Well, when I look at this, I think, and I was kind of taken aback when I saw the matrix, our 87 matrix about the Panthers. I think the Panthers are getting too much credit. I do not think they're as good as some people say they are, and I think the Cardinals are not getting enough credit. Yeah, I know Palmer, he has 6 interceptions this year with only 4 touchdowns, but that offense just seems like they're waiting to, they're almost there. They're almost on the same page, and they're getting ready to click. If they were playing at Carolina, I might have picked this different because I think these teams are pretty evenly matched. But since they're at Arizona, I don't think they're going to blow them away, but I think Arizona is a good enough team that they are going to win this game. I mean, it was nothing more than just looking at the two teams and saying, you got mediocre and mediocre, but mediocre number 2 is at home. That's pretty much, you could have pros and cons for both teams that pretty much even out. And it just comes down to Carolina, I have a little more faith in the Palmer-Fitzgerald connection than I do in the Newton-Olsen, and who Greg Olsen is the number 1 receiver on that team right now. So to me, I have a little more faith in Palmer. He has a little more experience where Newton is playing better this season, but he's still not living up, in my opinion, to what everyone thought he would. So to me, like I said, it's mainly just because the Cardinals are playing at home.
And the Panthers are 13th in our power rankings because they had that big win over the Giants. Because our power rankings work. You're ranked based on what you put out there. So you get so many points for wins and point differential, and then you get bonuses for winning on the road. You get penalized for losing at home, and then you get bonus points for beating teams with a 500 record, 600 record, 700 record, and later in the season, 800 record and beyond. So right now they're sitting, tied with the Chargers and the Ravens in that kind of middle mucky part of the power rankings. But I think that the Carolina Panthers defense is still good enough, and I don't like the Cardinals. I just don't.
To me, the bottom line in this is a couple numbers. The first one is that the Cardinals have allowed Carson Palmer to be sacked 10 times in 4 games, and Palmer has thrown 6 interceptions. And I think that plays well to that strong defensive line of the Panthers. Plays well to the linebackers, and it definitely helps the secondary. So that's why I'm picking the Panthers in this one. And as long as we're talking about it, I love Greg Olsen as a fantasy play this week. And in fact, he's my top tight end fantasy play. He is primed for 100 yards in a TD.
They are ranked 20th in the league, the Cardinals defense, in pass yards.
But they were a great start last week against your Buccaneers.
Yeah, well, now all of a sudden they're my Buccaneers. Okay.
They are.
Down with the ship.
They have to be after the way you were talking about going.
I said he wasn't going to lose the game. I didn't say he was going to throw for 350 yards. Anyway.
At least Manning's closer to my age than Freeman. Hey, real quick, I wanted to back up and just say something to the Titans and the Chiefs.
Sorry, it's my computer.
Oh, my God.
I thought we were just transported back to I Dream of Jeannie or something.
That's right.
I was just going to say the one thing I'm interested in about that game is one of the things that the Titans defense did for Jake Locker that was outstanding was they gave him good field position. If they can keep doing that with Ryan Fitzpatrick and he can capitalize on that, the Titans would not have lost anything. And my point of bringing that up is that for anybody out there, if you're watching that game or the highlights, that's something to pay attention to.
I'd love for Ryan Fitzpatrick to lead the Tennessee Titans to the playoffs, just because it would drive the Bills fans around us nuts.
That'd be a beautiful
Absolutely nuts. The next game that there is dissension about is the Houston Texans at the San Francisco 49ers. Steve and I are both picking the 49ers. Jim, you are the lone dissenter picking the Houston Texans.
I am, and we talked a little bit about this off air. The reason why I'm taking the Texans in this game is something that is sort of you have to sort of pick up on the 49ers defense as well as what we saw the Texans do this weekend to the Seahawks. And where the 49ers have struggled is against teams whose offenses have a featured back or a player that plays like a featured back. And I have to qualify it because, as you may recall, the 49ers lost to the Seahawks. Marshawn Lynch went beast mode, put up, I don't know what it was, 150 all-purpose yards, 2 TDs, some crazy numbers, and really handed it to the 49ers. And then the 49ers lost to the Colts, where it was Ahmad Bradshaw that basically gave it to him, a couple with Trent Richardson, but mostly Bradshaw. And that plays perfectly to the Texans, who did exactly that with the Seahawks, and I think they're going to do that exactly with the 49ers. I mean, Arian Foster is one of these very subtle, runs like silk. He just kind of says, okay, I see you, I know the position you're in, this move, and I know how it should affect you. And then he takes the step that he needs to take after making the move, and that's what's going to happen. I think the Texans have a decent enough passing game with Andre Johnson, who, time and time again, he amazes me. He's one of these guys that in a bad matchup, you have to sort of look at and go, you know what, I shouldn't bench you because even though this is a tough matchup, you're a guy that can get me 80 to 100 yards, even, in triple coverage. Mm-hmm. So, and in defensive Matt Schaub, I will say this, on the interception that he did throw, one of the problems with the play was he rolled out on the play while everybody was going in one direction, he was going in the other. And as he rolled out, I believe one of the offensive linemen or a tight end missed a block. So when he took his head up, he immediately had a guy in his face. What he should have done was taken the sack rather than the ball. Meaning the ball he threw, it didn't look good, but it wasn't going to be good because it was just bad timing. He should have just taken the sack, and he didn't, so it was a bad choice. And I don't think that'll happen again. And that's why I think the 49ers are going to lose. Colin Kaepernick needs to step it up, and I just don't see that happening this week. The Texans' defense, boy, last week they were nasty. And I think they'll be nasty this week too. So I think the Niners are going to lose.
Alrighty. And then there was one final game that I saved for last that there is a dissension, and it is my dissension. And that is that I am picking the Jacksonville Jaguars to beat the St. Louis Rams this weekend.
Let me do it now. What?
Yeah. I officially believed when I saw that you did drugs today. I'm going to call the child services because you were in charge of your son. So.
They get Justin Blackman back. this week, and I'm telling you, it's a vibe. That's my wacky pick of the week. I'm going to pick the Jacksonville Jaguars to get off the schneid against the St. Louis Rams.
Their schneid is a permanent schneid.
There it is. I found that to be the stud alarm for Jim.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. And we can also make that to be.
Let's not play it for the Jaguars quite yet, okay? Let them win a game first before you play the stud alarm.
You heard it here first. The Jacksonville Jaguars will beat the St. Louis Rams.
I'll tell you, if the Jaguars win next week, I would be stunned.
I will accept.
I will say this: when the Jaguars lose, you can never give me crap again for making a pick.
Why? That's just a gut pick. That's just a total gut.
That's not a gut pick.
I don't
know where your gut is to make this pick.
If I have to justify my pick, I can't justify my pick. There's nothing on paper that would make you want to believe that the Jaguars are actually going to win that game. I just got a feeling. I just got a feeling. Give me the dice. One last toss.
Little black eyed peas?
Yeah. I was going to say, tonight's going to be a good night, Keith.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it seems like as good a time as any. So, thank you all for joining us. You're listening to 87 Live on NBC the Sports Fans Radio every Wednesday, 10 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time.
Post-game show is brought to you by Christ, I can't find it. The hell with it.